from accidental electrocution to cosmic death sentences and more. Join me as I show you 10 embarrassingly dumb ways people have died. Number 10. Struck by a meteorite. I want you to think about outer space as a whole. You know that there are various things out there in space that could kill us instantly, yes? One thing that many people are worried about is asteroids coming and crashing into the Earth and wiping us out like it did the dinosaurs once upon a time. But at present, that isn't a concern. However, meteorites do come into contact with Earth at times and are welcome for study. These events are rare but valuable. Now, getting hit by a meteorite and dying, that's truly rare and unlikely and illogical, but it's not impossible. In fact, it's happened multiple times in history, including the earliest known one happening in 1888 in Iraq. Think about all the various elements that had to come together for that death to occur. We're not just talking about the meteorite coming to Earth at that date and time. We're talking about the people, a couple of Turkish researchers, being in the exact area and then being in the near exact spot for the meteorite to hit them. And that's just crazy dumb. Thankfully, while dumb, it is a rare occurrence that's only been confirmed a few times. However, people getting with meteorites as a whole isn't as uncommon as you might think, showing that sometimes, yes, the universe does have it out for you. Number 9. Michael Godwin. In point of fact, Michael Godwin should have lived out the rest of his days in prison and died of old age. He was originally slated to be put to death, but then a change in his sentencing came in and he was given the punishment of life in prison, which Godwin happily accepted. Things were all fine and well in his cell until one day he realized that the TV he had in it, yes, prisoners can get TVs and other things in their cells if they're good enough, well, it wasn't working. As he started to look at it, he realized that there was something wrong with the wire connected to it. Deciding not to ask a guard for help, Godwin felt the best option was to cut the wire with his teeth, which was dumb because it was a live wire, and after biting into it, he electrocuted himself. Now, he may have lived if he was just standing when he was doing this, but instead he was sitting on a metal toilet which helped amplify the power of the electricity. And the irony of the situation? Well, he was going to be put to death via the electric chair, and he technically did get that via a different throne. Number 8. Bee-ware. In 2002, a farmer in Brazil was going about his property and realized that there was a massive beehive there waiting for him. Bees are not the creatures to mess with if not properly prepared, and thankfully for him, he knew that. He knew that just approaching them would be dangerous in a whole host of ways, so he set out to make a foolproof plan to get rid of them. He knew that he needed two things in order to get rid of them. Number 1, protect himself, and number 2, use fire to get rid of the hive. Fire technically can get rid of a beehive, but it's far from standard practice. Regardless, he went and prepared to burn the bees anyway. But remember step 1? His idea of protecting himself was putting a plastic bag over his head and then sealing it tight. Just for the record, bees can get through a plastic bag, so that wasn't the best protection. Not to mention, he forgot about having to breathe. He didn't put holes in the bag so that oxygen could get through. And such, when he didn't get home, his wife went to look for him and found him suffocated underneath the beehive. But fear not, the bees did not touch him. Number 7. Sweeping up the blast. While not as prominent in homes today, the chimney used to be one of the most important things in the entire house. Not the least of which was because it would be where fires would be started in order to keep families warm. Modern technologies have made it less necessary, but to the homes that have one, they still need to clean it regularly in order to keep their homes safe. Enter Marco, who was indeed a homeowner who had a chimney. He started to clean his chimney in the basic way by using a broom, but he realized that it just wouldn't work. So he had a creative idea. Using a chain and a weight, he could have the broom go all the way through the chimney without much effort. This was indeed a good idea. The problem, though, was that when he looked for a weight for the idea, he decided the best thing to use was a grenade. Why Marco had a grenade is kind of beyond us, but he did have one, and he decided he was going to weld the grenade to the chain to ensure it didn't break off or fall off. I kind of feel like you know where we're going next. Marco didn't think of what would happen when fire met a grenade, and sure enough, once the welding fire touched it, it exploded, and Marco was killed while his chimney was still in need of cleaning. Number 6. Brake. There are some very basic rules when it comes to driving. And one of the most important ones is that when you're ready to get out of your car, you need to put the brake on so the car doesn't move. A certain 58-year-old woman from Australia clearly forgot that important lesson. Her death was all kinds of dumb and ironic. First and foremost, the reason she'd stopped the car on the way to the grocery store was because she wondered if she'd remembered to pack plastic bags in the trunk. She used them a lot thanks to a recycling mindset. So she responsibly pulled over, got out of her car, and checked the trunk. No sooner had she got done checking the trunk that the car started moving backwards, running her over and sadly killing her. Yes, she pulled over and forgot to put on the parking brake, and this very basic mistake made for a very painful death at her expense. Though how it was moving backwards and not forwards is still a bit of a mystery. Number 5. There's a train coming. Waiting for the train has driven many people to do many stupid things, as humans are anything but patient. But for one man in Romania in 2002, that stupidity got taken to a whole new level. In short, he was waiting for his daily train, and he just couldn't understand why it was taking so long. He decided he was going to go old school and see how long it would take to arrive by listening for it. And on the surface, this may not sound that bad, but the catch here is that he listened for it on the ground right next to the train track. He got right down on the ground next to the train track and waited for the train to make a sound, but to his surprise, he couldn't hear anything. Moments later, an express train raced into the station and ran him over, killing him instantly. If he'd just been a little more patient, he'd still be alive. A little mad his train was late, but alive. Instead, his hearing cost him everything. Number 4. How to heat up your lava lamp. There are few things as cool as a lava lamp in the eyes of some. Despite being a relic of the 60s, they're still in use today, and they are still rather fun to look at. You can even make a DIY one for relatively cheap. Regardless, the standard ones you buy at the store take a little while to heat up in order to get things flowing. Enter Philip, who is waiting for his to heat up and got a little impatient. Despite the warning label saying not to use external sources to heat up the lava lamp, he decided to put it on the stove, turn up the heat, and see what would happen. What happened is that the pressure from the extra heat caused the lava lamp to explode, and shards of glass from the container went into his chest and killed him. Now, you might think that this is truly a myth and that someone can't really die that way, but the Mythbusters once dedicated an entire episode to finding out if it could happen. And while not a 100% kill move, if the conditions are right, it will take you out, just like it did for Philip. Number 3. The need for speed and crashing. Being a pilot is one of the most important and dangerous jobs in the world, especially when you're a pilot for the military. Because not only are you doing work for your country, but you're piloting a multi-million-dollar aircraft that the military really doesn't want hurt. For 2 United States Navy pilots in 2017, though, that apparently didn't cross their minds. These pilots were piloting the T-45C Goshawk, which is a craft that has 2 pilots for varying reasons, including being able to switch controls should something go wrong. The 2 got bored one day and decided they were gonna go Top Gun and do some stunts with the plane. At first, it was harmless, but then they started to get closer to the ground, including going well below the safety guideline for pilots in this craft. Their antics eventually caught up with them as they were switching controls because they crashed into the ground at high speeds, destroying the craft and killing them both in the process. Number 2, don't try this at home. There have been many dumb acts done in the name of impressing friends, and for one Dutch kid in 2004, he decided to try and break the rules of gravity and physics by doing a speed test. His plan was simple. He was going to set a car he drove to 20 miles per hour, then use its momentum to jump out of the car and thus run alongside it at the same speed. And I'm sure physics majors will understand what's wrong with that equation. Regardless, with his friends watching, he did indeed try to do that. But when he did, instead of getting out of the car and landing on his feet, he landed on his head. He technically didn't die right then, but he did die the next day, all because he was trying to do some cool stunt. Number 1, look out below. If you were to have met Michael in real life, you would have surely said that he would not die a dumb death. Not the least of which is because he was a really smart man. He was a college headmaster and a respected lecturer on a circuit that took him all over the world. In one adventure, he found himself at Victoria Falls Bridge. He was taking pictures when suddenly his glasses fell over the side of the bridge. In his mind, he wouldn't be able to enjoy the trip without his glasses, so he took a swan dive off the bridge to go and get his glasses. The problem was that there was nothing to stop his fall, and so he fell 40 feet to his death. Not exactly the brightest move, Headmaster. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these dumb tales of death by real people in the world? Can you believe that people really died in this way? Which of them do you think was the real dumbest of the lot? Or do you have another tale of death that you'd like to share with us? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List, and I'll see you next time on the channel.